So, how do you become a freelance artist in 2024? I'm going to talk you through my personal story of how I turned my hobby into a career, talk you through the steps I made, all the errors I made, the things I learnt, and hopefully share some knowledge with you guys while you watch a time lapse of one of my paintings. So enjoy it. The first thing I would say is you need to take a lot of time just to build your skills up. You need to practice your arse off. And there's so many resources available online now through Udemy, Gumroad. You can learn from the professionals themselves through my YouTube channel maybe. Although it's not quite professional yet, but we'll get there. You need to learn your craft. You need to learn the fundamentals of art and design first and foremost. So your perspective, your values, your anatomy, color theory. You just need to spend, if you already haven't been doing so, you just need to spend a couple of years honing in those skills and then slowly building up a portfolio to then share to potential clients. So first and foremost, it's pretty obvious, but you just need to get good at what you do. There's no point sharing your work too early that's not good enough and you're gonna just look bad basically. So build your skills up and then share your work. For me, it took probably about 4 to 5 years. I was doing my normal 9-to-5 job. I worked in an office somewhere. Pretty much hated it, but luckily it was one of those jobs where I could get away with actually not doing what I'm supposed to be doing there and kind of sitting there. I used to have a sketch pad and I used to sit there and draw, or I'd like research what I'm going to do later. And then after work, I'd spend 8 hours at work and then I'd spend another 8 hours after work just painting, going through tutorials, learning, repetitions. Just like building strength at the gym. It's not going to happen overnight. It takes years. People will tell you it can take, 2 to 3 weeks. It's never going to happen. It's going to take 2 to 3 years to actually make a noticeable difference to your skills or your body or whatever. So just do what you got to do. Like obviously you need to pay rent, you need to buy food, look after your family, whatever your circumstances are. You need to basically live that life. It's going to be hard. Like I was exhausted most of the time. Like after a day's soul destroying work at my day job, the last thing I wanted to do was work some more, but I had a vision of what I wanted my life to be like, and the only way to get there is to take small steps every day. Sometimes I might only manage an hour, and that's fine. Forgive yourself, start again the next day. But yeah, the main thing is doing something every single day. If you work out how much time you waste, like I never watched TV. I never really did anything else when I was going through this time of learning. The only thing I did was what I had to do, which was my job. Everything else, getting my steps in, going to see friends. But every other second of the day was dedicated, well, other than sleeping, was just dedicated to learning art, because that's what I wanted to do for a living. So yeah, very important. Currently in Thailand, by the way, so I'll talk you through how you can then, maybe in another video, but I'll talk you through how you can then turn your freelance creative job, whether it's graphic design, illustration like I do, and then you can start, if you like traveling, you can start to travel and work in co-working spaces all over the world with other freelancers and network and make more connections. It's great. What I will say before I go into how to get work, first and foremost, is you need to specify on something like, what do you like to illustrate and paint? For me, I always loved sci-fi and fantasy, and then within those genres, I loved landscapes, weapons, spaceships, characters, all of that kind of stuff. So that's what I concentrated on the most. So you want your portfolio to reflect your strengths, what you're good at, what you're passionate about. So you don't want a portfolio online with like some pet portraiture and then a gun. Like it's just like, all right, okay, what are we paying this guy to do? Like it needs to be all within a theme. So that leads me on to portfolios. So you need to build a website that can easily showcase your work to potential clients in the world. You need to start Instagram, you need to start DeviantArt, you need to start ArtStation, start every social media account that you can think of. There's lots of new ones for art popping up every day, but I've mainly just stuck to DeviantArt, Instagram and ArtStation. That's worked for me. And then you need to start posting your work every day. Again, it goes back to that repetition thing. You've got to do it every single day, even when you can't be bothered. You just got to do it. You got to project into the future and think, what do I want with my life? I want to be a freelance artist, so this is what I'm going to do. So if you fail, I literally believe now that anything's really, like, obviously not everything's possible, but if you've got a goal, like, I want to get in shape, I want to travel the world, I want to start this job, I want to achieve this goal. All it takes is just repetition every day. Over the mistake that people make, it's not over months, it's not even over 1 year, it's over multiple years. But the mistake people make is most people, they don't see progress even in a year. Like, you know, it took me 5 years to even get my first job. Like, I wanted to give up after a year. I was like, well, I've been working for a year, nothing's happened. Like, but the point, even if it takes 10 years, like, but it won't take 10 years. If you just do move forward every single day, it's going to take, the thing is, it's going to take sacrifices. There'll be events that you have to turn down. You have to, you know, you won't be able to sit and watch Netflix. You know, like, you're going to miss out on stuff that you'd probably rather be doing. But again, you've got to think of that goal. And trust me, if you sacrifice all that stuff, it just feels so much better when you achieve the goal, because you've learnt discipline and you've achieved something that you never thought was possible for yourself. You've created a portfolio, you've created all your socials for your different platforms, starting to upload every day. So they're saying a month you've got like 30 posts on all your socials. So you've got stuff for people to look at now. So next you need to be interacting on all those social media platforms. So you need to start following other artists you respect. You need to be messaging them. You need to be interacting with their profiles, getting yourself known. Here I am, I'm an artist too, like that kind of thing. And most importantly, the next step was finding email information and Instagram profiles, LinkedIn profiles, whatever, of art directors, publishers, people you want to work for. Even if you'll get imposter syndrome, you'll be like, they're never going to listen to me. But, you know, you send 100 emails out a month, someone's going to get back to you. So, but again, first and foremost, you have to make sure your work is good quality. Like, so that's the hardest part. Like, you know, if you haven't put the time in to have a respectable portfolio, probably no one's going to hire you just yet, because you're not skilled enough. You have to demonstrate that you're someone with value and that's worth hiring. This took, again, another couple of years before I even got anything back, but I just did not stop, kept doing it. Sooner or later, when you just keep this process going, someone's going to get back to you. And these first jobs are the most important, because it's basically your arse on the line. You've got to put the same amount of passion and determination into this work as you would if you was doing it for yourself, or like a special friend or whatever. Like, you've got to really deliver above and beyond than what they would probably expect. Like, you've got to be better than people that they've been working with for years. You've got to really bring the fire. You don't, if they're saying, can we change this? You can't be like, well, no, it's going to take too much time. Like, you've got to be a bitch. Like, you've literally got to be, because you can just use AI now, let's be honest. You know, like, if you're difficult to work with, you can even just generate art now. So you've got to be an asset to the publisher. You've got to be, they feel like they can trust you to just outperform any art generator. You've got to be completely just be able to communicate, like easy to communicate with. If they need ideas changing, you can do it straight away. Give them loads of ideas to work with. Obviously, good manners, good etiquette. Just you've got to be an asset for a company, otherwise they will just go elsewhere. So these first few jobs you get are the most important. I can't stress that enough. You've got to be a good asset, because what happens then, you start working for one company and they will spread the word, like, you know, because the companies, they all talk to each other, they go to conventions. You know, they might be a situation, I've had it before where like a company I work for has been at a convention and then another publisher's been like, oh, who did that artwork? Oh, it's Mark, like, yeah, he's been working for us. Oh, can I have his details? And then suddenly I'm working for another client. It's just, you've got to, it's how you compose yourself. You've got like, and that's why I'm kind of thankful I'm 34 now, so I got into this career quite late in my life. And I did many different jobs. I worked in warehouses, I worked for Virgin Media, they're like a telecommunications company, went into people's houses and fixed their internet and all this. But even though I hated those jobs, because I'm completely a creative person, if I'm not doing art, music, photography, anything like that, I'm not happy. But I'm thankful for those jobs, because, you know, the Virgin Media job, going into customers' houses every day, it taught me how to work with people, like how to deal with different personality types and how to keep my cool and not let my emotions get the better of me. Just being customer facing, being as helpful as possible, because they trained us how to do all that, you know, like how to call customers up and be polite and you know, just be a good person to work with. And as I said, how to deal with different personality types, because you're going to come across different people that will react with you different ways. You know, people from different countries, they kind of they're a bit more blunt with their instructions, and you can easily be offended by that. But you just got to realise different people work different ways, and you've got to be flexible. Basically, that's another bit of advice: don't take anything to heart, because artists tend to be really, when they do their work, it's like really personal to them. You've spent 8 hours putting your heart and soul into something, and then the client goes, no, don't like it. When I first started, I was like, what do you mean you don't like it? I spent 8 hours, I've wasted my time. But now, trust me, it will make your life a lot easier if you just say, okay, you're the boss, we'll do it again. And most of the time, if they're a fair person, they will pay you for another one. It's not going to be a waste of time. And then you'll learn. You'll learn what kind of stuff you need, like what work you need to produce for certain clients. And it's just, don't resist. Just go with the flow. You are the worker, they are the client. So you don't argue back with them. There are some circumstances where they're taking the piss a little bit, and then you've got to say, look, I've made this many changes to this illustration, I can't do any more, you need to pay me more money, blah, blah. And most people are quite reasonable and they understand. If they're not reasonable, then they're not professional and they're not even worth working with. Just sod them off. Yeah, that's like a brief overview of how I became an artist. I'm still posting regularly to all my socials, just really starting YouTube now. Again, I'm gonna treat YouTubers with the same commitment. I haven't been doing it every day, but I know I'm going to, because I know when I get an idea and I want to achieve it, I will achieve it. Right, regardless, it will happen. Because it's a principle. Once you learn the principle of reps and repetition, the thing that puts you off, as you're doing it every day, you feel like you're not getting anywhere. But after a year, 2 years, you look back and go, wow, that was worth it. Like, rather than just, I'm going to try this for a month. Oh, it doesn't work. I'll go back to being my normal self. No, nothing works like that. You got to brick by brick to build a house. I'm sure there's some other examples, but we all know this deep down. I think everyone knows this. It's not rocket science, but we have a tendency to listen to that lazy part of our mind. And that just goes back to when we were simple creatures or whatever. Like, it's a survival mechanism. Your brain wants to go through life the easiest as possible. It doesn't want struggle. But since we're conscious beings and we have this need to improve ourselves and learn things and do that, you've got to fight against that urge to give up, because it's strong. Like, literally, I have to, going to the gym, for example. I never want to go to the gym, but I just do it anyway. And then I look back at what I've achieved and I'm like, hell yeah, I'm glad I did that. Going back to making sacrifices, for example, I'll be honest with you, it's embarrassing for me to say, but I moved in with my parents for a long time, because basically, if I go back to my previous story, I travelled and lived in Australia and New Zealand for almost 3 years. Wasn't an artist then, was just kind of going from job to job, pretty aimless. And then I got to a point where I couldn't take the thought of just going back home to England and getting renting a flat in some shitty part of town or whatever, and then just getting another day job. I couldn't do it. So, unfortunately, obviously, so thankful for my parents for this, having to put up with how old was I at the time, 32-year-old son coming back home. But they understood that I had to do this thing. Luckily, while I was in Australia, I saved up enough money to pay them rent so I could stay there without having to get a job. But yeah, as a man over 30, you don't want to be back home living with your parents. Obviously, I love my parents, but that to me, that was one of the sacrifices I had to make. It kind of damages your ego a little bit, but I knew it needed to be done in order for me to have the time to make this change. And I was never been so determined. I think that helped the determination. I was like, right, because the dream, what I wanted to do is what I'm doing now. I wanted to be able to travel the world and do a job that I loved, my hobby. I'm now currently doing that, but when I look back, people will probably take the piss out of you, oh, when you're moving out of your home, you loser, whatever. But just had to ignore all that, because I had a vision of what I wanted my life to be like. Who cares what anyone else thinks? And yeah, again, that's what I call a sacrifice. That was the sacrifice. Currently, I don't own a house, or I'm not in a serious relationship or anything like that, because I've pretty much sacrificed that for my passion for art and travel. And that's worked for me. I wouldn't have it any other way, really. There was times in my life when I went down the normal path. I haven't got anything against this, but get the mortgage, get married, have kids. That could have happened to me, and I just knew it would have not been for me, basically. I've always been a bit of a wild card, always have to do the opposite of what most people do. But I guess that's just a creative person thing. Always been a rebel, always wanted to go my own path, and whatever. It worked out for me in the end. Very happy. Oh, my bald spot. So,